Okay, so Michael, welcome to our little Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Dean. I will enjoy it.
Yeah, so yeah, we do have a little bit of history. We've known each other for, what is it, about 40, 45 years or something now?
40 to 45 years.
Back in
Quite a long time.
Back in the Bellingen days, yeah. So
That was when you were a naughty lad and went and paint bombed the nuclear sub that came into Sydney Harbour.
yes,
You paint bombed it out of a ultralight.
yes, I dropped a bag of paint on the first nuclear warship, and then a year later, British nuclear warship came, and I dropped some flowers on that from my ultralight in Sydney Harbour, and spent a month in jail for penance. So you know,
And spent a little while flying around looking down the barrels of a lot of guns.
yeah, I did hear that a Harpoon missile was pointed at my butt, but anyway, we've both gone down different paths.
That took a lot of courage, you know.
Yeah. So we've both gone different paths. Sorry, we've both gone different paths in the 40 years. I've gone off in a activist sort of shamanic path, and you've gone down another path, communicating with nature and metaphysical aspects. So we had a chat about a year ago, but you know, it's amazing how reality can shift in that time, and just in the last few months, we've obviously seen this coronavirus, you know, pandemic spread all around the world, and all the fear and everything's associated with that. So I wanted to talk with you again to help to get an understanding of a broader picture of what's going on the planet on a metaphysical level, and also on the physical level as well. So, you know, if you can give me your take, I guess we'll launch straight into it on what this coronavirus is revealing on this planet at the moment. Yeah.
Well, the big, I would just say that for your listeners, that I do a lot of metaphysical travel, which means that I move my focus away from my physical body into the metaphysical body, which everyone has. Generally speaking, your metaphysical body is at least 3 times bigger than your physical body. But we are caught up in the physical images of a physical world and our physical bodies. And I often liken the physical body to a prison. Instead of a vehicle, it becomes a prison. Sure, it's a mobile prison, but people stay in prison. And a long while ago, I realized that if you could do astral projection and move out of the body while your body is asleep, then it wouldn't take much of a stretch to be able to do it while your body's awake. And so I taught myself that, and I could move out into beyond time and space as we know it. That's part of the linear world, part of the illusion. And so I could move out into any, as Richard Bach nicely put it, anywhere and anywhere. And so this is how I look at the bigger picture that we're talking about. And so humanity's been around for a long time. And I'll just say that there's only a small part of humanity that is on this planet at this time, 7.7 billion. That's not all of us by any means. But nevertheless, we're coming to the end. We're pretty much at the end. We're certainly in the end years of a 200,000 year cycle. And that's the 5th cycle coming to an end. And so we've been around 1 million years just on this planet, even though science does not concede that. They look at the small picture, the physical one. And so we're coming to the end of a cycle, and there is no determined length. This is the interesting part. It's not like God's sitting up there with a timer and saying, okay, 200,000 years, you're coming down to the last year, the last month, the last week, and countdown. It doesn't work that way. We determine the length of the cycles and the way we either evolve or do not evolve. Sorry, but this is the long answer. And all life is about the evolution of consciousness. And all life has consciousness and is to a degree conscious. Even a rock, a mountain has a very powerful consciousness. And so all life is about the evolution of consciousness. Nature is the natural evolution of consciousness. Humanity is the creative evolution of consciousness. And we've got to the point at the end of this 200,000 year cycle, which I have to say is fairly similar to other cycles that have gone before, although some of them have been disastrous, where we've 200,000 years, and to put it in a simple way, we lose the plot. You know, what are we doing here? What is it? And so we believe in the physical world. The Matrix movies did it well. We believe in that, in the world of illusion. And so for a long time now, human consciousness has not been evolving. Nature has been evolving. Humanity has not been evolving on a level of consciousness. Yes, we've been getting more clever. Yes, we've been evolving intellectually and growing intellectually, but in wisdom and intelligence and consciousness, we haven't been evolving. No intelligent species poisons its own planet. No intelligent species kills its own oceans and makes the air in the cities where the most people live literally unbreathable. There's no intelligence, but I won't go into that. I could spend the next hour pursuing that. We'll leave that for now. And so we've come to a point where we don't work. We're not functioning properly. And so life, nature, consciousness, energy says, okay, we need to wrap that up and start the sixth cycle. But there's always the opportunity of ascension. And so what is going on now, and we'll bring it back to this particular virus, but what's going on now is something to catch our attention. And it's succeeded, it's caught our attention. It's interesting that it's man-made. But we have at this point, as you well know, we have about the 1% of the Illuminati and their cabals, who are human and reptilian combination, and who therefore are not what you call people who you want to be terribly intimate with. I mean it seriously when I say they have no concept of the true meaning and the experience of love. They only lust, and the word is lust, after power and control. Because deep, deep within themselves, on a soul level, they are so undeveloped that they are terrified. And if you were to talk to one of them, they'd say, I'm crazy. But they wouldn't reveal what's going on in their deeper levels. So they're about control and power. And from them has come this COVID-19. A coronavirus is, every flu is a coronavirus. You know, they've been around a long time. And so COVID-19, man-made. And so what it's done, it is catching our attention, because every government in the world practically has been sucked into this, into a belief that we have a pandemic. It's amazingly strange that we have a pandemic and we're still losing less people to COVID-19 than we're losing to flu. More people die of flu every year, 500,000 to 1 million every year. We're a long way off that figure yet. Anyway, and so what it's doing, this is polarizing everyone. Now, at the end of that 200,000 year cycle, always there is a great polarization takes place. Our problem is we have become subconscious. We live subconsciously. That means we have a program from the past, a mental, emotional, reactive, survival program. It's all about reaction. It's all about anger, fear, very fear-based, and survival. We want to survive. So here we have the forgotten truth that we are eternal beings, that we're a soul with a body, not a body with a soul. we're eternal beings, we're magnificent, metaphysical, multidimensional, eternal beings of love and light, completely forgotten. That's all gone, except for the few. And we have this belief that we are mortal human beings. And so those people with that belief know what fear is. I've moved beyond fear because I don't choose it. Anyway, and so everybody's being polarized. Now there's two directions that are emerging. One is a repeat cycle. I want to be very clear here. There's no criticism implied here, and there's no right or wrong, should or shouldn't, good or bad, better or worse, or superior or inferior. None of that exists. We're all human beings struggling to make out of life what our long past history has taken us to. Some people's past history has had a lot of spirituality in it, a lot of soul seeking. The majority have never done that. Doesn't make them wrong. Their priorities were materialism, and you don't take it with you. And so the two directions were being polarized. One is fear-based, and I want my old life back, which is more of the same. Dean, the greatest addiction on this planet is not toe juice. It's not, it's not any drug. It's not any alcohol. The greatest addiction on this planet is more of the same. More of the same. Because the intellect wants to know what's going on. It understands more of the same. Newness, it's never connected with. The intellect, if it's completely brand new, it doesn't know what it is, and it's frightened of it. And so I don't necessarily mean a person is frightened, but their intellect is, and the intellect is very, very arrogant. Again, that's not necessarily the person, but the intellect is very arrogant, and it there gets knit to this. If I understand, I must be right. No, we can understand and join the collective illusion. And what we understood has nothing to do with life at all. And this is where the intellect is today. It's caught up in a vast illusion that appears absolutely real. And so there is this polarization. One is fear, survival, more of the same. They will move into the sixth cycle. And when I say will, everybody who's been dying for the last 5 to 10 years, and certainly all through the 20s up until the 30s, into the 2030s. So everybody who's been dying from about 2012 until about 2030 will move in the direction of their own consciousness. There's no judgment, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. They simply move in the direction of what they have created, because we were designed to create. And so here we have 7.7 billion people, and probably 7 billion don't realize in every moment of their life, they are creating the direction and content of every moment of their life. I'll stop soon, then you can get a question in. And so there is this incredible thing happening. There are people in the galaxy, there are beings in the galaxy, and a lot of them. And they look down with a sense of amazement on this planet. There could be so many a species of intelligence and doesn't even know yet that we each create our own life. Absolutely. Anyway, and so then there'll be the few who will move toward love, unconditional love, toward newness, and will embrace change. They will move. That's what you would call an ascension mode, not hanging up on a cross, but an ascension mode of a rising state of consciousness. So one state of consciousness stays like it is, and the other state of consciousness is rising. There's no good or bad or right or wrong or superior or inferior. There is one thing, choice.
So that seems to be at the moment something that that we are faced with at the moment, is how to deal with this crisis, what we're seeing at the moment on the planet. And I see a lot of people choosing fear and contraction and separation. And that's why I wanted to talk with you today, because you seem to have a great handle on how choosing love can actually affect it, not just on a small level, but actually on a global level. Like that's how we, one question I was going to ask you was, what can any individual do to be the most effective and efficient in achieving the change that they want to achieve on the planet at the moment?
Problem is, people like me are always talking to people who are ready to listen to people like me, and probably people like you. The people who need to listen to us would run away from a truth because it makes them uncomfortable. A lot of people need to believe the government is looking after us. The fact the government is a complete bunch of imbeciles who hardly know what's going on, that doesn't occur to them. I don't mean bad people, but they believe in the illusion, and they have no idea what's going on. And so I talk a lot about love, unconditional love. So when I'm saying love, it's always with a capital L, and it's unconditional. But what is that? People don't know what it is. Now, on a human level, I would put it down to unconditional acceptance. To accept yourself unconditionally. Therefore, there's nothing to criticize, nothing to judge, nothing to get angry about, nothing to correct, nothing to change. I live with no worry, no anxiety, no stress, no criticism. I never criticize myself or judge myself. And it makes life very, very much lighter. So this thing called love is the power of creation. Now let's get this clear right now. Everybody thinks love is an emotion. So if you get in a boat and you follow a whale and you're inside your boat, you're not above it, you're inside it, sleeping on a berth, do you become a boat?
No.
Good.
I'm very aware of my surroundings.
Okay, but you're a person in a boat.
Yes.
And if you see a whale and you feel emotions come up, the whale has brought on those emotions because you love them. Now, if you therefore are in love with life, with a person, not with a car, you can't do that. But if you're in love with life or with yourself, then you feel your energy rising and you feel emotions in this. So emotions are the passenger in the vehicle of love. So love has emotions come into it, but they're the passenger. They're not what love is. Long ago, we decided the emotions are what we feel, so that's what love is. Completely wrong. Love is the power of creation. And every one of us has the power to create. Now, if you're in a bad mood, then your creation will not serve you well. If you're hating and angry, everything you create and you want to get revenge on somebody, everything you create will impede upon you. And you might get your revenge on them, but you'll set up a cycle that you're not going to enjoy. If you were to choose love and you feel your energy rising, now you're a creator. And so when you choose love, you create your reality. I said earlier, everybody creates their own world reality. Everyone creates their own personal reality. And so you're creating a personal reality that the world supports, because the planet and all nature are all expressions of love. Not love and emotion, love as creation. And all trees express it, the earth expresses it. And so when you choose to unconditionally love the situation, instead of feeling hate toward the Illuminati, which feeds them energy, because that's what they thrive on, and you think about them, you're informed, you know what's going on, but you choose love. Instead of emoting and getting angry and cursing and blaming, you simply choose love. Then the love affects your life, it affects your world. And people who come into your world pick up on that energy. And if you are able to go on social media and talk about it and spread that out, and other people get the idea, wow, the one way we can bring about change is through love. You know, we have a history of wars and battles, and somebody won every time, one side or other won. What did they gain from it? All they gained were the seeds of the next war. And so war and battle and fighting has never achieved anything. We're in the same sort of mess we were. In fact, we're in a worse mess now. But nobody's ever tried it. Not true. Gandhi tried it. Gandhi tried love, peace, and love. Okay, Gandhi himself thrived on it, but the others, it was an intellectual idea. There, of course, were many, thousands who really felt what he did. But for most people, it was an intellectual idea. So the intellectual idea of loving is not going to make any difference. It's your daily life with yourself, because you, Dean, are the world. You're the world. So your daily life with you, your relationship with yourself, and this is the key. Your relationship with yourself is your relationship with all humanity, with the whole world, with all nature, with every wild, and it's your relationship with God, and it's your relationship with life. It's your relationship with yourself. If that one is of love and respect and deep appreciation, life for you, it doesn't matter what goes on around you, life for you will work beautifully. But people say, God, you're always activated, you're always an activist. How come you look so good on this? You know, half of them look beaten up. You're looking really good, Dean. How come? Because you're actively protesting, but inside you're at peace and at love with what you're protesting. It's not something outside of you bad and horrible. It's simply, I protest this action. I do not agree to this action. That sort of protest is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
The people who go out there screaming their anger, they are the anger they're screaming at.
Yes, and if I can just sort of go on from that point, when just last week I was involved in a protest against 5G here in my town, a local town in Mullumbimby, and you know, I heard your words echoing in my mind as you know, the police were putting their knee in my back and whatever, just to consciously choose love, which I did, and also didn't let fear overtake any actions. And I think that's important at the moment on every level, and I'm seeing that on the internet too. You know, lots of people doing, you know, sponsoring chanting, live chanting sessions, sharing their music, sharing their art, sharing, you know, their talks, and when that comes from a point of love, you can feel that going out into the world. And I, you know, sometimes, you know, I think, oh, the scale's going this way, and then I'll see some responses to that where everyone's in their fear and wants to fight and separate, and I see the scales going the other way. And you know, I'm excited about these times, and I'm just, you know, wondering. You know, we're up against some pretty solid forces here. I mean, you know, we've got the police force backing up all the governments and the telcos and everything else. You know, arresting anyone that doesn't do what they're told. You know, can we still stay in love under this sort of under this tyranny that we're being faced with at the moment?
Only if you're loving yourself, because then there's no act. If you're loving yourself, nothing is going to take away from that. Like Nelson Mandela, he went into prison, a very, very angry man. And 26 years later, obviously one thing that happened to him, he grew in wisdom. He grew in consciousness. And gradually he lost his anger. And when he came out, he may well have been an enlightened man. And all he looked for was peace and reconciliation. And he was a very, very great man, because something happened to him, an alchemical process he went through while he was in that prison. You don't have to go to prison to do that. So the times we're in now is like a deliberation of provoking a human. And you either respond, and you always respond from the moment. Love responds, Dean. Fear reacts. And so you respond for the moment with love. But if you're caught up in the subconscious, what I call the program, then that reacts and fear reacts. And so in a way, everybody is all about how conscious can we be? Now, when you were being arrested and led away and all that, you made a choice. So you made that choice consciously. I'm going to choose love. So you made a conscious choice. But if you had got angry, that would have not been a choice. You said earlier, some people choose fear. Nobody chooses fear. They just don't choose. And so therefore, fear chooses them, because fear is the program. And so if you don't choose to be conscious, you see, if you want some tragedy, I'll tell you, we have, according to Bruce Lipton and other people of that ilk, there is around about 94% of humanity lives subconsciously today. Let's just say 90. We'll give 4% any doubt. We'll take 10, we'll have 10% or not. There is no such thing, Dean, as subconscious love. That's scary. You can only love consciously, and you can only grow in consciousness consciously. And so it's either conscious choices or reactions. Nobody chooses fear because they're simply reacting, the old program, straight back. They're interfering, it looks like a choice, but it isn't. They never were conscious enough to choose, no, I don't think I'll get fearful, don't think I'll get angry, I'll make a choice, love. Now that is a choice. And in that moment of being conscious, in that moment you connect with the world and you can change the world. Now if enough people, I hear people saying if 10% of us all chose love, the whole of humanity would be loving. I'm sorry, I like the 100th monkey principle, but we're not monkeys. You know, and okay, all the monkeys, when they learn a certain percentage were washing their sweet potatoes in the ocean on those Japanese islands, at a certain percentage, the habit broke out all over islands that were not connected. But we're not monkeys. We've got something to do. We have to evolve and grow consciously. Monkeys are already conscious. You know, they live in the moment because they can't think their way out of it. But we are on a higher level of evolution and we have to make conscious choices. And so, yes, the more people who are feeling love, because there is only one humanity, one humanity, one human consciousness, the more people are feeding love into that, certainly it's going to influence far more people. I'm serious when I say one person with unconditional love has a greater influence on the world than 500,000 people who are angry and hating. One has a greater influence on the world. On the other hand, they're going to see the influence in their the future they're creating for themselves. The other people who are not influenced are going to live the future they created. So we're in some, I wouldn't miss this for quiz. We're in some great times.
Yeah, it's amazing time we're in, and you know, some people have phrased the term a quantum shift in consciousness, and it feels like we've got fertile ground for that leap to happen at the moment. Just a question: when you're talking metaphysical realities, and then the reality that we're in this physical body here and now, I'm trying to get an understanding. Is the change that we want to bring, is that just in this 3D physical world, or can we exist in the reality that we choose in another dimension altogether?
Okay. The metaphysical precedes the physical. You cannot have a physical illness without the discord and disturbance in the metaphysical. So the metaphysical world is real. In other words, quantum physics today tells us that if you are looking out across the ocean or in a forest or in a garden or in a city, what you see is less than 1% of what is there. And what you hear is less than 1% of all that is audio. And so in other words, our physical bodies and our physical world is on a slower frequency than the frequency of light. But that's only 1%. The rest of all life is on a higher frequency than the speed of light. We only see it if it's slower than the speed of light. So if I've got a beautiful orchid and I'm looking at one of my orchids, it's slower than the speed of light. Otherwise I wouldn't see it. I would hold it up, whoops, it's gone. That was a good flower I didn't see. But on the other hand, if I had taught myself, then I could open my metaphysical eyes and see that flower on a higher frequency. Now, right now, I'm writing a book. I'm in the very early stages. And what I'm exploring is that frequency that we can't see. That 99% that is there, that we don't see. And so, to answer your question, the world as we perceive it is the illusion. And we're deeply caught up in the illusion. The moment you leave that illusion, the moment you realize that I like the word metaphysical because it means beyond the physical. I am a being. Your metaphysical body, Dean, is far more complex than your physical one. It has much higher abilities that your physical body could never do because it requires a higher frequency. And so your metaphysical body has a higher frequency than your physical one. The physical body cannot fully emulate the metaphysical body. And so on this world right now, metaphysically, there is a huge shift taking place. There is a shift in the frequency of the planet. All nature is moving, has for the last 2 decades more, has been moving with this higher frequency. And every animal that doesn't fit that frequency is becoming extinct. This doesn't mean they can't come back again. That's just our belief. When you believe in the illusions, the stupid saying, extinction is forever. There's no such thing as extinction. It doesn't exist, never has done. But if you're on page 300 in a book of 1,000 pages, and page 300 is where it's at, but there's like over another 300 or 400 pages to go, and there is another 300 pages behind it. But we look on the one page and say, this is it, this is everything. But it's one page in the book of life. And we're now on one page in the book of life. And on that page, it only has one word, change. And it's in capital letters. And it's all about us. It's about us moving toward a higher frequency. If we can't do that, it doesn't make us bad or wrong. And I'll be honest, most won't. Most won't go on that. But the others will ascend. And it will probably be the greatest ascension there has ever been in the human cycles.
So you feel that what we're looking at the moment is the possibility of a mass ascension process with people who choose the higher vibration, and the highest vibration is love frequency. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that, yes. There is no higher frequency. And even then, when we reach the highest frequency of love that is available to us in a 3D body and a 5D metaphysical expression, even then, that's way down on the scale of the power of love. But it's the best we can do. Mm. And yet, it's like light. If you put a torchlight in a room that's already illuminated, then does the torchlight illuminate the room more, or does it join with the illumination? So in other words, what I'm saying is, if you're loving as best you can, let's just say unconditionally, There are no ifs or buts. You're loving unconditionally. Then you connect with a vastly greater love that lifts you toward it. Like a moth to a flame, you're lifted toward it. I've experienced this. It's actually almost scary because you get the feeling, am I going to lose my body in this? Well, then that doesn't matter either. But then that's a little bit further down the track.
Yeah. So choosing unconditional love, it's been a catchword that's been around for a while, but a lot of people don't really understand what that really means. Like, I know you're saying, you've got to start with loving yourself first, and then I guess sort of sending that out there. Is that like in unconditional acts of kindness, in generosity, in how does that look on a physical level?
I come back to what I said before. It comes back to how you treat yourself. If you treat yourself, let's just say Christ came and said, "G'day, Dean, I'm the Christ," and just popped his halo up to like 1,000 watts or 10,000 watts, 100,000 watts. You said, "Okay, I'm convinced. I'm going to spend a couple of weeks with you." You'd probably behave fairly well. You'd probably monitor your thinking and do your best to be a bit impressive and to yourself as well as to him. Well, then look at it. You are the rising Christ. There's not going to be a second coming. It's as a person. It's the Christ energy, or there are many names for it. We'll simply call it the love energy rising. There'll be those who are ready to express it and those who are not. But the first expression is you, because you are the world. This is what you've got to get in your lovely head. You are the world. There is nothing out there except what the brain plays with. It's all a creation of mind and brain. It's not real. It's all energy. So you are the world. I have a people say to me, "God, you're in your middle 80s. You look like in your 60s. Why?" Well, because I have a relationship with myself that is absolutely unconditional love. I never criticize myself. Hey, I've got family, they can do that. I don't need to do that. And, I don't judge myself. I have a beautiful relationship with myself. It took time. I didn't just walk into that. But when I was 35, I set my path. I want to know who I am. I want to know what life is. And at about 49, I had to give up the want. I want enlightenment. I want this. And I nearly lost my physical body, but that's all documented. And so I found the realization of self, and continued my path, and eventually found unconditional love. And they're life transforming. They're like the elixir of life. They don't immortalize your body, but they slow down the aging process enormously. If you're loving yourself, of course it affects you. In your heart, you have seven clusters of muscles, and in the average body, they run at random. And when you're loving yourself, those 7 groups of muscles come into cohesion. And when your heart is cohesive and they're running with energy, the energy that goes through the body is far greater. This energy moves up to the brain. And if you're in a whole brain, instead of left dominant, but your whole brain, then the whole brain is affected by this energy, and it opens up new pathways. That energy then connects with the pineal. And if your pineal is like the average one today, the size of a grain of rice, then it's in serious trouble. But if it's about the size of a large bean, or the end of your joint of your little finger, then the pineal energy comes. That's where your intuition is. That's the third eye. That allows you not to see in the world outside of you. It allows you to see in the inner world, the metaphysical world. And then that moves down to the solar plexus, and your emotions come into balance. And the energy then moves out to every cell of the body. It's an incredible thing. What causes that? Unconditional love for yourself. And And if you have that for yourself, I love humanity. I mean, I can't help it. I can't go and look at a young boy and say, I love him less than I love my grandchildren, or a man. You know, my children and grandchildren are grown up, most of them. I can't look at a man or woman and say, I love them less, I love my family more, because today my family is humanity. It's no longer the biological family. And so it affects everything. It affects your life completely.
Mm. So just again, and I guess I'm trying to look at
unconditional acceptance. Unconditional acceptance. That's okay. The word.
All right. Well, that's
where it begins.
That reminds me of that policeman putting his knee in my back and just sending unconditional acceptance and love to that policeman, and not feeding that fear, control energy. So just on that point about actioning unconditional love, I know, okay, it starts from within, and then for me, sometimes I get in some turmoil because I can see the peace and the joy in the metaphysical world, in the connection with the Great Spirit, and then I see some of the, we'll call them atrocities going on the planet. You know, where the corporations are, they're chopping down the trees, they're killing the whales, and now we're seeing, them wanting to bring in forced vaccinations and ID cards and cashless society, and like, how do we respond to that onslaught of this energy?
You know, what you really have to do is live with the moment. If you look ahead and try to work out how you're going to do all that, you don't know what's going to happen. If you're trying to worry about how you deal with that, you're going to make that happen because you're giving it the energy. So when you look at what you don't want to happen, where you focus, your energy flows and connects and creates. So everybody doesn't want, and I'm included in that, we don't want mandatory vaccinations and all the junk that they put in there. But if you focus on what you don't want, you attract it, you energize it, you bring it into being. Whereas if you focus on a loving world, even though there's no evidence of it, if you focus on a loving world and you're loving yourself, you are one of those who would create a loving world. And although certainly you will then inherit a loving world, when you leave your body, you'll move into a loving world. That's absolutely. But again, your power is far, far greater than tens of thousands who are with the fearful world. So you've got to put your focus to what makes your heart sing, not what the illusion says is happening, because there are horrors. I mean, one of the biggest trades today is child sex slavery. It's an enormous industry in this day and age, and most people don't even know there's such a thing happening. And so the more you know, the more you could feel angry about it. But I long ago learned I can inform myself, I can find out what is happening, but I do not have to give it my energy. All I give it is unconditional love. That is the one thing that it cannot thrive on. That is the light. If you've got a dark room, you don't go in there with darkness to try to make it light. If you've got a dark room, you go in with light to illuminate it. And if you're looking at a future that looks terrible and you worry about it, you are darkening the room. If you look at it from as a light and you shine the light of love on it, you're going to change that more powerfully than anything else. And when there's 1 million people doing that and 10 million people doing that, I'm sorry, they don't have a hope.
Okay, well that's good to know. Another question that I've got too is, you mentioned before about ascension. I'm curious, and I'm sure probably some of the listeners are, what does ascension look like? What is it? Do we leave this physical body? Do we go into a parallel universe? If you were to look at this earth
if you get a pack of cards, you could almost say that all the pack of cards, all cards occupy the same space and the same moment. Would you agree?
Yep.
So look on this planet as like a pack of cards, and we're on one of them. And so that every planet occupying the same space has a different frequency. There are some lower than this. I've been and looked at some of it. You really wouldn't want to go there. And there are many of them higher than this. And so ascension is when you, and there's no way around this, when your love for yourself is so great that you love humanity, no matter what they do. You don't love their acts. You realize that all humanity is a soul. Every human being is a soul. And this is, and I'm serious, this is a kindergarten planet. And these are younger souls on this planet. And it's okay to go through kindergarten before you start junior school. And it's okay to do junior school before you go to high, and then on to university. We're the kindergarten. And so these souls have a lot of, everybody, a lot of people think souls are all wise and all knowing. No, they're not. Souls are eternal energy, eternal beings of consciousness that are growing, They're intrinsically innocent, but they get lost in personalities. Souls struggle. So this is a planet where all these souls are looking at the same sort of scenario. Now, some of those souls for many incarnations have been seeking to rise. And I don't mean religious ones. In fact, most religion doesn't help them rise at all. There are the few that have risen within religion, despite religion, but most of them don't rise at all because they're depending on something that is outside of themselves. They're depending on a concept of God that they haven't experienced. When you experience God, all your concepts are shattered. Even the word, but you still have to communicate. But it breaks down every concept and every belief. But anyway, we won't go there. And so we're at a time when the frequency on the planet is continually lifting. It's not staying static. It began in 2012, and it's been continually rising very slowly ever since. Now it's beginning to rise a fraction faster. This is why the Illuminati want control, because if they take control, they will bring the frequency down. And they literally will control that. This is their last-ditch attempt. Just as there are people supporting that, there are beings supporting that, there are legions of light beings who are supporting the left. Everybody's making their choices. No angel, no archangel, no light being can impose on you a choice that you haven't made through your life, through your living, through your thinking, through your emotions. They can't, if you're like a little, you've grown up believing you're a kitten and you've grown into a cat, they cannot suddenly make you a dog. And just as if you've grown up, I'll use that, play with the word, you've grown up with a tremendous dogma, then they suddenly can't make you open and flexible. That's not what they do, but they could move you, give you the opportunity through the rising frequency to move out of your dogma toward a greater openness and flexibility. They can give you that opportunity. So right now, that opportunity is happening on this planet, an opportunity to rise, to lift our energy. That rising and lifting energy, when it's at a certain stage with the influence of the frequency rising, and a human will go people, individuals, their frequency rising, there could be a time when you were walking down the street with 5 people all in conversation, and then suddenly they stop. What happened to Dean? Where's Dean? They look around, look in all the local shops, Dean's gone. Because there was just one moment when suddenly you became transparent, and your energy lifted so high, You're no longer in their sight. You could see them, but they couldn't see you. You're moving to the next level, the next frequency of planet Earth, where there is no pollution, where there's absolutely no pollution. We are not allowed, and we can't pollute the whole planet, but that's part of the illusion and part of the game. There's too many of them. There's at least 300 of them, and over 300. And so we can only mess up one classroom. And even then, we can't blow it up.
So when
that's what Ascension is.
Yeah. So when you say that we move to a different frequency, is that like a parallel universe, or do we still exist in this 3D world, and just perceive things differently?
Actually, Dean, you don't really exist in this 3D world at all. That's also part of the illusion.
Okay.
You are not that body. Show me a handful of your thoughts. Hold up a cupful of your imagination. On your hand, show me some of your intuition. Show me some of your emotions. You could cry, but that's not your emotions. That's your body expressing them. So in other words, everything that makes you a quintessentially unique man is not your physical body. You could have a look-alike. It could be cloned. But the essential you, so let's put this, what this actually means. You're magnificent. We take that without any problem at all. You're metaphysical, which means you're beyond the physical. You're multidimensional, so your body is three-dimensional. Absolutely, no question. It's three-dimensional in a linear reality. But all those things I'm talking about, your intuition, your imagination, your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, all that, they're not physical. Nobody can see them. So they're on another dimension. They're fourth dimensional. So you're a fourth dimensional being using a three-dimensional body. And when you move on up the scale, you become a sixth-dimensional being and probably in a fifth-dimensional body. But I've been to the fifth dimensions quite a lot, and everything looks three-dimensional, except they can do things that we couldn't do possibly. They can have buildings that we couldn't maintain, we couldn't have. They can grow a house. In 24 hours, they can grow a house. Specialists can grow a house so that the owner is involved in the house and the house is semi-sentient. They can do things that we can't. But if you look at it all, it looks through metaphysical eyes, which are not physical eyes at all, because there's a tremendous amount of perception in them. Then you see it looks very similar to a three-dimensional world. The change is subtle, but you're already a third, fourth dimensional being. As your fourth dimensional energy rises, so it will affect your three-dimensional body in as much as it will become more superfine, more super-tuned. It will have less fatigue. Everything will work better in it. It'll be more synchronized. But nevertheless, it's about the being you are. There can come a point of time, if it's appropriate, where your ascension leaves the physical body. The physical body then could go with you. It could go with you, and on a much higher vibration, could manifest in your next world, on that next vibration, where you'll find you're surrounded with lots and lots of people, but you won't see any police uniforms. And there'll be no COVID-19, no disease, because there's a whole different level, a higher level of frequency. So in fact, things like COVID, all of what we call disasters, Lao Tzu, 2,500 years ago, he said, Lao Tzu, the mark of our ignorance is the depth of our belief in violence, injustice, and tragedy. And we're familiar with those three words. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly. And so we're at the stage. If you fight what's happening, you continue as a caterpillar. If you rejoice in what's happening and just fill it with love, then you become the butterfly. And now is the opportunity that some people are becoming the butterfly. In other words, their own light body wings are beginning to unfold, and the others will remain as caterpillars and do the caterpillar round again. There's no right or wrong, but there's nothing to fight out there. It's just a game we're playing, a game, an opportunity to explode into light. You get it, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I can feel your energy moving.
Yeah, and I can also hear you saying that we have to open to that experience, like, you know, turn off the mainstream media with all the fear and the violence and control and whatever, and start opening up to, you know, praying, even, you know, inviting these higher energies to help us and to assist us. I see what you have to do there. Unfortunately, it seems there's a lot of people who won't hear what you're saying and haven't had the experience to choose love, and it seems like, you know, there's a lot of death and a lot of suffering, a lot of fear, a lot of separation going on the planet. What will happen, do you think, to these people? I mean, will it go back to some sort of normal for them, or will they go down a slide?
If we're going to deal with harsh reality, there will be a lot of bodies lost. But everybody on this planet today has probably had 10,000 incarnations, almost, and that means 10,000 bodies they left behind, and they're still alive as a soul. So we're eternal beings. And as for, you know, there is a timing for truth. Jesus put it in a very hard way, as far as I'm concerned. He said, you don't cast pearls before swine. Now that's pretty tough speaking. The pearls were the pearls of wisdom, and the swine were people who were not ready for it. I think that's a harsh way to say it, but that's there. I say, my way of saying it is, while truth is always truth, it is not truth for a person out of their time. And if they're open to, like you, truth for you is like fodder, it's like nectar, it's like the best drink you've ever tasted, and you feel it right in your soul. And so you're blooming. You look beautiful before we started, but you're looking even more beautiful now. And so you're the bloom of truth. But you've got to remember, there are billions, they're not ready for that. It's not their time. If you're going, let's put it this way, you're in kindergarten and there are grades. So we'll say junior school, and you've done 3 grades. And but the 3rd grade is really tough. You've really got to be with it. And so a couple of the kids really focused and got on with it. But the other 25 kids in the class, they were too busy playing around and messing around and chasing the girls and becoming popular. And so at the end of class, when they go to the new year, 2 of them go up into the 4th grade and the rest do the 3rd grade again, because they just weren't there. This is what's happening. We're in the 5th grade, and those who want to go to the 6th grade will have been doing it through the 4th and the 5th and the 4th grade, will have been putting in the work, and then they move on. Those who haven't done, they're perfectly wonderful people, and they're not lesser, they're not in any way lesser. They just weren't really focusing on what life is about. Their whole focus got caught up in the illusion. And as I said, I really emphasize it. This does not make them bad or wrong. And another point I want to make is that what has developed in humanity is victim consciousness. Victim consciousness says the world is out there to get me, and other people are doing things to me. That's victim consciousness. It's a lie, of course, it's not real, because in every moment of your life, you are creating the direction and content of every moment of your life. Even when a policeman puts his hand on your shoulder and walks you away, you've created that moment, and for your benefit and maybe for his benefit. Now, if there was no victim consciousness, you must realize there could be no Illuminati. But when you make yourself a victim, you will always attract somebody to victimize you. When there are billions of victims, then and we've been doing this for centuries, we've been moving this way. We didn't reach the first billion until somewhere between 1897 and 1903. That's when we reached the first billion. We're really getting into it. But for centuries, we've been gradually moving into this victim consciousness. It goes with being subconscious. And so victim consciousness creates and manifests people who will victimize the victim consciousness. It gets victimized. So the victimizers are complaining about being victimized. But if they chose love, then they're out of that immediately. Their energy lifts and they're no longer a victim. That's how we get out of this. We turn the world toward love.
So I can see sometimes I get caught in a little bit of a dilemma, certainly in the last month or two. I've been feeling that one of my passions is to go off sailing with the whales and deepening my relationship with them and the waters and the ocean. And yet I also feel myself being called to assist, like on the ground level here, with helping to stop the 5G rollout, helping to organise people to not accept forced vaccinations, and educating people on this sort of practical sort of level or physical level. Where do you think it's best for people to put their energy? I mean, I always encourage people to follow their passion. Is that enough, or should we be taking some sort of action on a physical level to, we'll say, stop the trees getting chopped down, just looking at trying to make the world a better place on that level?
Okay, now let's add one to this. Nothing by accident, nothing by chance. Okay, nothing is by accident. It's not by accident all the ancient forests are pretty much gone, because they were our balance. They put out an incredible energy. And because all energy is one energy on this planet, they were a tremendous counterbalance to us. And do you think it's an accident because as they've disappeared, we've increased in numbers, jumping billions? There's no accident in that. So now when we've got the greatest number we've had here in our awareness, then there are the least ancient forests to balance us. No accident. The part of you that wants to follow the whales, the great whales, is a part of you that loves, because you connect with them, you feel for them. That's your passion, but it's more than your passion, it's also your joy. That's your joy. Now, going to fight COVID and 5G and all that sort of thing, it's not going to be long before it's 10G and then 30G. I mean, it's an endless track. All that is part of the illusion, and it's going to be part of the energy that separates millions and millions and millions, even maybe billions of souls from their physical body. So they will they will move into their perfect place and begin a new cycle. And so what you're fighting is what is humanity has put in place. There isn't them out there doing it to us. It's not the people who own 5G doing it to us. There isn't them and us. So if you go to resist that, what are you resisting? You. Because there isn't them. There is no them and us. There's one humanity. You're either fighting them or you're loving them. And I think anybody will find it very difficult to go and actively protest without getting caught up in the massive emotions around you that are a long way from loving. And to me, you are far better to be a beacon of love in the ocean with the whales, because you don't have to love something, you're loving. You're loving. Your love following the whales is doing more to hinder the progress of COVID and 5G than if you're out there actively working against it.
Okay.
That's my honest answer.
All right.
Not just saying that to put a smile on your face.
No, that's thanks. I can sail off into the blue yonder at peace now. But you know, I guess following on from that, I mean, just
When you get these distressing thoughts and you get not sure, get in touch with me.
yeah.
We'll
But
sort it out.
just to play the devil's advocate, I mean, what if we do, like in a year or two's time, come down the pathway where they say, okay, you won't be able to travel, you won't be able to access your bank account, you won't have a driver's license if you don't get forced vaccination and an ID chip, and they come knocking on your door saying, okay, Michael, we noticed that you haven't got your vaccine yet. We're here to take you down and give you a forced vaccination. I mean, how do you respond to that?
Okay, how I respond to that, I will have a form ready, and I will say, I will absolutely have the vaccination. I just need you to sign this form where you take responsibility for your action. Because that's what everybody's taught to. We have to take responsibility for our actions. So you sign responsibility for your action. It's not going to affect me on a soul level. It's not going to affect me on an energetic level. I'm going to completely transmute everything they put in me. And so I have no fear of that at all. I would not willingly take it, but I have no fear of it at all, and I'll transmute what they put in me. But as long as they sign a form that they take responsibility for their actions, or anything that happens to me, then I will take it, because my love of humanity and my willingness to connect with people, as I do all over the world in my 7 days with Michael, my willingness to do that is not going to be stopped by a bunch of people who have moronic behavior and dictatorial predispositions. So I will take it, but I will expect them to sign a form. Now, they won't sign it, but we're going to have fun in the process.
So I guess, you know, looking at the bigger picture here, and, you know, just, you know, it looks like we might be coming out the other end as far as mortalities go. At the moment, there seems to be a decrease in cases and deaths, certainly in Australia, still rising in some other places. But it feels like, you know, we've got still some way to go with this. You know, if you are into predictions, you know, how do you see this unfolding? It's a very interesting time we're in at the moment.
There's one other thing I'd like to add. If you're forced to have that vaccination, have you read, or if you haven't, you should read the autobiography of a yogi by Yogananda. And in it, there's a story of a holy man who liked to walk around naked, and he visited the villages. We're going back a lot of years. He visited the villages in India, and because he was naked, they'd put him in prison. And before the people who put him in prison had walked out of the prison, when they walked out, he would be out there already walking away from the prison, because he just walked straight out as fast as they locked him up. But he was very unpopular by one villager, because he would go round and all the villagers would come to him because they could feel the energy of this holy man. And one villager he always had one bucket of goat milk at a certain village. That's all he had. He had his body fat because it pleased him to have his body fat. But all he did each week for nutrition was one bucket of goat's milk. And so this villager put quicklime in the goat milk and mixed it in, quicklime. And Yogananda drank it, and as he finished to put it down, a small bucket of course, when he put it down, the villager who put it in fell on the ground screaming in agony, because he was in terrible agony. And the holy man looked at him and he said, that should teach you not to put poison in other people's drinks. And so he let him have about 5 minutes of agony, and then flicked his fingers and he was healed. And I doubt he ever put milk in again. And so what I'm saying is, people who enforce vaccinations into other people's bodies, they will have a karmic duty to work out. and you would not want their next incarnation. You would not want it. But if you simply, as it goes into you, bless it and love it, and bless that, imagine that going in, being met by illumination, being met by light, being blessed and loved, you will transmute everything out of your body instantly and has no place there. Now, I'm not saying anybody can do that. I'm saying when you have that unconditional love, you will be able to do that. I have not a shred of doubt about that. So where do I see this going? I think it'll bumble along. I think maybe we'll see the middle of the month, or in this month of May, we'll see coffee houses open, and we'll see pubs and that open again, hotels. But what you've got to do, remember, is this is wrecking our economy as it's designed to. It's wrecking the world economy. That's the design of it. That's beyond everything else. To reduce the world economy to a complete disaster, to crash it. That's what it's about. And then bring in a digital economy and a one world order. And so I don't think any country will play around with this longer than they're forced to, because politically they all like their position and their money. And if the economy crashes, every politician will be kicked out of office. Not that anybody will do any better, but they will be out and another lot in. And so I don't see it lasting terribly long. I'm doing a 7 days with Michael in August in Australia, up at Mullaney, and I'm pretty much expecting that that will happen. You know, I didn't get to Europe this year or America, but I'm expecting that will happen, and maybe Japan as well in November. So I'm an optimist. I'm a natural optimist. Now, yes, I'm missing my cappuccino because I refuse to have a machine at home because I like the idea of going out and having one. But hey, I can live easily without it.
So, you know, even with all this this change and this control going on, it seems like it's going to be another world on the other side. A lot of people thinking it's just going to go back to normal, but I think we have a new normal, and it's not normal at all, you know.
I agree. What was once normal was appalling.
Yes.
I mean, there is a big wake-up call going out on the social media. They keep taking it down everywhere they can, but nevertheless, there's a huge wake-up call going out. Wake up. Things are not what they seem. And I suspect that there is more people than we realize are beginning to look at this and think, maybe there's something in this, and are beginning to move toward the wake up. So we, humanity, we have created a wake-up call. As I would say to all my groups, we're not going to like it. When it happens, it's not going to be fun. None of us are going to like this. But it's inevitable, because when something stagnates, nature does not, how would I put it? Nature does not support stagnation. All stagnation has to be broken. Human consciousness was stagnating, and it's getting smashed. Everything is happening. 5G, COVID, the whole lot. I don't like it any more than you do, but it's all part of the sledgehammer, including Trump. It's all part of the sledgehammer breaking the old. I hope, personally, that Trump gets another 4 years. Because I'm afraid if the Democrats get back, they will fight for more of the same. And clearly Trump and more of the same have never really met. So although I don't particularly like the man and his manners, on the other hand, he is exactly what is needed to smash down some of the old forms and the designs in America. We're in some interesting time. One thing I've learned is don't judge, just observe. Don't take a side, just observe. Just look at it. Very interesting. What's going on? Fascinating. Don't get caught up in a belief that this is bad and this is wrong and this is what I should do because this is right. Thinking makes it right or wrong. Your thinking says that's wrong, another person thinking says that's right. Who's right?
I don't know, we're seeing that a lot at the moment with a lot of division on Facebook. You know, whenever someone comes up with an idea, you know, even like yours, you know, talking about the Illuminati or whatever, they just call it a conspiracy theory, and then try and call you names and shame you and say you're a tinfoil hat wearer and all this stuff. But really, it's just a lot of people thinking outside of the box and outside of what they're being fed.
That's right. And there's more and more people getting outside the box. I mean, conspiracy theory, that came up when the CIA killed JF Kennedy and JFK. And, you know, they were being accused of this. So they found a scapegoat, and anything else was, oh, just a conspiracy theory. It's worked well for them ever since. You know, the suckers buy it. Oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Therefore, it's got to be wrong. That is breaking down right now, except for the diehards. And if they want to keep it, then they will probably die hard.
Yes, well, we're certainly going to see lots of change, and we're right in the middle of it at the moment. So the sun's just gone down and it's starting to lose a little bit of light here. So I might start winding it up. I just wonder if there's anything else you just want to share with anyone about, you know, how to deal with this reality at the moment.
I would say live one day at a time. Don't bother with tomorrow. Tomorrow is dependent on today. How you live today is how your tomorrow will shape up. If you're loving yourself today, you're loving your family today, you're loving who you're with today, you're loving what you're doing today, tomorrow will be a better day than today. And that might not mean that you like tomorrow better, but it will be working better in your favor. I would say, remember, you're the creator of your life. Be careful where you focus. If you focus on what you don't want and oppose it, you're giving it energy and you'll get it. If you focus on what you love, forget one. If you focus on what you love, then that's where your energy flows and connects and creates. And it begins with you loving yourself. Your relationship with yourself is your relationship with all life. That is so powerful.
It certainly is, and thanks very much, Michael, for sharing your wisdom with us here today. It's always great catching up with you.
Well, it's been my pleasure, Dean, and I thank you for inviting me to do this.
Yeah. Okay, and might catch up again in a few months and see where we're all up to.
Why not?
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.